Did you know there was an NBA legend who literally saved LeBron James's legacy with a single shot, but only after committing the ultimate betrayal against his own brothers? A player so obsessed with perfection that he'd wake up at 5 a.m. to practice his shooting form, yet when it came time to choose between loyalty and rings, he chose the path that would destroy friendships forever. This is the story of Ray Allen, the man who hit the most clutch shot in NBA history while simultaneously burning bridges that would never be rebuilt. But how did one of the greatest shooters ever become the most controversial ring chaser in basketball? The answer will shock you. Walter Ray Allen Jr. wasn't born into basketball royalty. He was a military brat, constantly moving from base to base, never able to settle down or form lasting friendships. By the time he was 18, Ray had lived in 8 different states and 2 countries, including a stint in Germany where he learned to speak fluent German. His father's Air Force career meant Ray lived in Oklahoma, California, Germany, and finally South Carolina, where his basketball journey truly began. But this constant upheaval created something dangerous inside young Ray, an obsessive need for control and routine that would later consume his entire existence. Every time his family moved, Ray had to start over, make new friends, adapt to new schools, and prove himself all over again. This nomadic lifestyle would later shape his obsessive need for routine and control, traits that would define his entire career and ultimately destroy his most important relationships. The turning point came on June 2, 1989, when 15-year-old Ray sat in his South Carolina living room watching Michael Jordan desperately try to get past the Detroit Pistons. Jordan's determination, his refusal to give up despite being physically beaten down by the bad boys, struck something deep inside Ray. He knew right then that basketball was his calling, even if he had no idea how controversial his path would become. But unlike other kids who dreamed of being like Mike, Ray became obsessed with the idea of never missing. He'd spend hours in his backyard shooting the same shot over and over until his mother had to drag him inside for dinner. His neighbors thought he was crazy, but Ray was already developing the mentality that would make him famous and ultimately cost him everything. At the University of Connecticut, Ray Allen was already showing signs of the clutch gene that would make him famous, but also the obsessive perfectionism that would eventually destroy his relationships. His junior year, with 38 seconds left in the Big East championship game against Allen Iverson's Georgetown, Ray threw up what seemed like an impossible prayer shot. The ball went in, UConn won the title, and Ray Allen's legend was born. But this early success came with a price that nobody saw coming. The pressure to be perfect, to never miss when it mattered most, was already eating away at him like a cancer. His teammates noticed it even then. Ray would stay in the gym hours after practice, shooting the same shots over and over until his hands bled, and the janitors had to kick him out. What made it worse was that Ray was already showing signs of the antisocial behavior that would define his career. While his teammates celebrated their Big East championship, Ray was in the gym the next morning, working on his shot. When reporters asked him about the game-winning shot, he didn't talk about the team or the moment. He talked about his form, his follow-through, the angle of his wrist. His coach, Jim Calhoun, later said that Ray was the most talented player he'd ever coached, but also the most isolated. This wasn't dedication anymore. It was obsession, and it was only getting worse. The 1996 NBA draft changed everything for Ray Allen, but not in the way he expected. After declaring early from UConn, he was drafted 5th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves, only to be immediately traded to the Milwaukee Bucks for Stephon Marbury. Bucks fans actually booed the trade, wanting the flashy ball handling of Marbury over some college shooter they'd never heard of. Sports writers called Ray the most likely to fall into obscurity, words that would fuel his fire for years to come. But Milwaukee proved to be the perfect place for Ray to develop his legendary work ethic. It was here that coach Chris Ford asked him a simple question that changed his life. What's your routine? Ray realized he didn't have one, and that's when the real Ray Allen was born. The obsession with routine became legendary throughout the league, but it was also destroying Ray's ability to connect with his teammates. Ray would arrive at arenas 4 hours before games, following the exact same warm-up ritual every single time. He'd take the same shots from the same spots, eat the same pregame meal, and even put on his uniform in the exact same order. If anything disrupted his routine, a different parking spot, a change in the locker room setup, even a teammate talking to him at the wrong time, Ray would become visibly agitated. His teammates thought he was crazy, but the results spoke for themselves. By 2001, Ray had led the Bucks to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they faced Allen Iverson's Philadelphia 76ers. But what happened next would haunt Ray for years and plant the first seeds of his mistrust of everyone around him. The series was rigged, or at least that's what Ray and his teammates believed. Scott Williams, their defensive anchor, was suspended for Game 7 after a flagrant foul that didn't even get him ejected in the previous game. The foul count was heavily skewed in Philadelphia's favor, 186 free throw attempts for the Sixers compared to just 120 for Milwaukee. Glenn Robinson, their all-star forward, didn't get a single foul call until Game 5. Ray was so convinced the league wanted Iverson in the finals that he publicly accused the NBA of rigging the series, earning him a $10,000 fine and a reputation as a paranoid troublemaker. This controversy would follow him for years, making front offices hesitant to build around someone who would publicly criticize the league. But the real betrayal was yet to come. In 2003, Ray's own coach, George Karl, traded him to the Seattle Supersonics for Gary Payton, a move that blindsided the seven-time All-Star. Ray found out about the trade from reporters before a game, learning he'd been shipped across the country like a piece of cargo. The Sonics fans didn't want him either. They'd just lost their franchise legend for some shooter from Milwaukee. But Ray Allen was about to show Seattle what they'd gotten. In his time with the Sonics, he set the NBA record for most three-pointers made in the season with 269, scored a career-high 54 points against the Utah Jazz, and single-handedly kept the franchise relevant. When Seattle drafted Kevin Durant in 2007, it seemed like Ray finally had the young superstar he needed to win a championship. Instead, he was traded again. The Boston Celtics trade in 2007 was supposed to be Ray's salvation. Paired with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, the Big Three was born, and Ray finally had the supporting cast he'd been dreaming of. The chemistry was instant, the success immediate. They won 66 games in the regular season and marched through the playoffs to face Kobe Bryant's Lakers in the finals. Ray's clutch shooting, including a game-saving three in Game 6, helped Boston win their first championship in 22 years. Pierce, Garnett, and Allen weren't just teammates. They were brothers. They'd fought through adversity together, sacrificed individual glory for team success, and formed a bond that seemed unbreakable. For 5 years, they were inseparable, both on and off the court. That brotherhood made what happened next even more devastating. In 2012, after the Miami Heat eliminated Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, Ray Allen faced the biggest decision of his career. Boston offered him a 2-year, $12 million contract to stay with his brothers. Miami offered half that money but guaranteed him a starting role and a clear path to another championship. For weeks, Ray went silent. He wouldn't return Pierce's calls, wouldn't respond to Garnett's texts, and completely shut out the organization that had given him his first ring. Paul Pierce later revealed that he called Ray dozens of times during that free agency period, leaving voicemails, begging his brother to come home. Garnett tried to reach out through mutual friends, even offering to take a pay cut to keep Ray in Boston. Doc Rivers, their coach, flew to Ray's home in Connecticut for a face-to-face meeting, but Ray wouldn't even come to the door. The silence was deafening and intentional. Ray had already made his decision, but he was too much of a coward to tell his brothers face-to-face. He knew that if he heard Pierce's voice, saw Garnett's passion, or looked Doc Rivers in the eye, he might change his mind. So he did what he always did when emotions got involved. He shut everyone out and made the cold, calculated decision. Then came the announcement that shook the NBA world. Ray Allen was signing with the enemy. The betrayal was complete, and the brotherhood was dead. The betrayal cut deeper than anyone expected. Pierce felt like his brother had stabbed him in the back for money and glory. Garnett refused to speak Ray's name for years afterward. Doc Rivers, their coach, called it the most disappointing moment of his career. But Ray didn't care about the broken friendships or the angry former teammates. He had one goal: to win another championship, and he was willing to destroy everything he'd built in Boston to get it. The Heat's 2013 playoff run would prove whether Ray's calculated betrayal was worth it. Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals. The San Antonio Spurs led the series 3-2 and were up by 5 points with 28 seconds left. LeBron James was on the verge of his second straight finals loss, his legacy hanging in the balance. The Heat needed a miracle, and Ray Allen delivered it. Chris Bosh grabbed a crucial rebound, kicked it to Ray in the corner, and without hesitation, Ray buried the three-pointer that sent the game to overtime. It was the most clutch shot in finals history, and it saved LeBron's entire legacy. The Heat won the game in overtime, then dominated Game 7 to claim the championship. Ray Allen had vindicated his betrayal with the greatest shot of his career. But here's the most insane part of the story. The morning after winning the championship, Ray Allen didn't celebrate. He didn't party or get drunk or stay up all night with his teammates. He woke up at his usual time, 5:30 a.m., and went to his scheduled dentist appointment. The dentist. After hitting the shot that saved LeBron's legacy and won Miami the title, Ray Allen's first thought was about his dental cleaning. That's the level of obsession and routine that defined his entire career. He was so locked into his habits that even winning an NBA championship couldn't break his schedule. His Heat teammates were still celebrating on South Beach, and Ray was in a dentist chair getting his teeth cleaned. When reporters asked him about it later, Ray said it with a straight face, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. That's when people realized that Ray Allen wasn't just different. He was completely disconnected from normal human emotions. Winning a championship should have been the greatest moment of his life, but for Ray, it was just another day at the office. This story perfectly captures why his former teammates could never forgive him. To Ray, basketball was just a job. Relationships were just business arrangements, and loyalty was just a word. Ray Allen retired in 2016 after 18 seasons, holding the record for most three-pointers made in NBA history until Stephen Curry broke it years later. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018, cementing his place among the greatest shooters ever. But the relationships he destroyed in his quest for perfection never healed. Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett still won't speak to him. In 2021, during Pierce's Hall of Fame induction speech, he thanked every important person in his career, teammates, coaches, family members, but never mentioned Ray Allen's name. Not once. The Big Three reunion that fans have begged for will never happen because of the betrayal that cut too deep to forgive. Even today, more than a decade later, the wounds remain open. Pierce has said in interviews that he still feels hurt by Ray's decision, not because he left Boston, but because of how he did it. The silence, the refusal to communicate, the complete shutdown of their brotherhood. That's what Pierce can never forgive. Garnett has been even more brutal, calling Ray's decision weak and saying he lost all respect for him as a man. Doc Rivers, now coaching the Philadelphia 76ers, has said that Ray's betrayal taught him never to get too emotionally attached to players because they'll break your heart every time. Ray Allen got his second championship and his Hall of Fame induction, but at what cost? He sacrificed brotherhood for individual glory, loyalty for legacy, and in the end, he got exactly what he wanted and lost everything that truly mattered. The man who never missed a shot when it counted most, missed the most important shot of all, the chance to be remembered as a teammate, brother, and friend instead of just a basketball player. So was Ray Allen's betrayal worth it? Did saving LeBron's legacy justify destroying his own relationships? The shot that made him a hero also made him a villain. And that's a contradiction he'll have to live with forever. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Ray Allen made the right choice? Or should loyalty have come before rings? And if you want to see more stories about NBA players who shocked the world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.